What's up, everybody? It's Jasmine, and it's my last day in Hamburg, and I've had a really good time. So on the first day, we went to Hagenbeck Tier Park, which is a zoo, and it was started by this fisherman in Hamburg, and he was like, "I'm gonna start a zoo" with his son. So that's pretty cool. And you can feed the goats and things like that. And this thing, you can feed this as well, and I did that, and it really liked me because everybody else, they were trying to feed it, and he was like, "Oh nah, not really interested," but he let me feed it, so that felt really good. And there's alpacas, rabbits, elephants, maras, guinea pigs, muntjacs, baboons, miniature goats that you can feed with this. And then we went to the goats, and I was feeding the goats, and then they stole my pamphlet and they tried to eat that, so that was a nice memento. And also when I was at the zoo, I got to try these honey mustard and onion pretzel pieces, and these are really delicious because the honey mustard is quite a nice taste, and it just like gives the pretzels a strong, sweet, savory taste. It's good. And so I really have had a really good time in Hamburg. I've seen lots of things. I've been to the zoo, been to this underground tunnel, which is crazy. It's like, so it goes under the harbour, right? You know, just a normal tunnel, except that the way you get your car into it, or your bicycle or whatever, is you've got to take an elevator. So imagine all these people got to go to work on the other side of the river, and then they like have to drive, and then drive into an elevator, then it shuts, and then it goes down, and then they're in the tunnel. Isn't that wild? So that was really cool, because I just, like, you don't even know about these things until you see them. Like, nobody ever talks about, oh, the elevator tunnel in Hamburg, you know. And then we also went to these elevators that they go up, but they don't shut, so like they're always moving, and they go like this, I guess, but we don't know because we weren't allowed to get in it. And that's really cool, because I had seen one of those on the internet quite recently, so I was pretty keen to see one of those in real life. And then yesterday we went to the police museum, and I got this little photo. And that was really cool because it had a lot of history about Hamburg, from like what the police did. So in the beginning, one of the main roles of the police, or the night watch, was to I guess make sure that there weren't people in the city that they didn't want, because Hamburg used to be enclosed. So in the 1800s they would lock the gates at night. Isn't that like super wild? And so if you wanted to be a resident in Hamburg, you had to get like I guess like a residence permit. Isn't that just like so weird? I mean, because when I think about it, like 1800s, it's not really that long ago, you know. I mean, I guess it's 200 years now, but you know, 100 years ago it was the First World War, and then I mean 100 years before that. I mean, it's just so weird to think about how much things have changed. And then obviously there was a little bit about the Nazi era, and gosh, because in the future I want to go to Poland, and I want to go to a concentration camp, but I just think it'll be really difficult, because just reading like the little bits that they had in the museum, it was like, oh my god, like you just get so upset. And so that makes me a little bit nervous about if I would even make it through a concentration camp tour. But I mean, I think I will do it, because I do like history. Like, I find it interesting, but it's just so annoying how much upsetting things there are in it. You know, it's hardly ever a happy time. But then they had this part of the museum that was really good, because it was fun. And so on the top floor they had like these crimes that had happened in Hamburg, and it's so weird, like just like these fantasy things. Like, there was this guy who would extort the police for money, and he would get them to go to these drop-off points, and he would have like elaborate mechanisms to get the money to him. And so he like evaded the police and things like that, because they would expect him to come to the drop-off point, right? But instead he would have like some mechanism that the money made it to him somehow. It was like, oh man, Hamburg is like a fantasy town. All this weird, cool history, obviously bad history, and things like that. And and then there was this other true crime where this guy, he ended up being like not a bounty hunter, but like he ended up being like a hired killer, because somebody wanted to hire him to beat up somebody that they didn't like. And then it was like, oh well, like why don't I just kill him? And then so the word got around that he was willing to do that sort of thing. So then he ended up killing like 5 people that he was paid to do. And then he had his trial, and he got his lawyer in on this, where his lawyer helped his wife sneak a gun into the courtroom. So then he shot a member of the court, shot his wife, and killed himself. And the thing is that the lawyer obviously committed a crime, because she helped the wife smuggle a gun into the courtroom. Like, she's an accessory to murder, right? She got like 6 years in jail, but then afterwards she was still allowed to practice law. What's going on? Like, she clearly has something wrong with her. But anyway, so there was like lots of weird things like that. And then there was a part about how 2 of the 9/11 terrorists, they studied in Hamburg, and I didn't even know that. So there were lots of things that you were like, well, this is, I didn't even know that. And then you just think, like, wow, Hamburg, lots of stuff happening here. And then, one of the really like gross things was that there was this murderer, a serial killer, right? And so he had killed like at least 5 women, right? And then the police didn't even know about it, but then there just happened to be a fire in the building that he lived. So then the fire department came, right? And then they found, what did they find? I think they found bits of people. And so then they like started their investigation, right? And then none of the women were reported missing. So the police had to go to where this guy often went drinking and ask if people remembered these women being in the bar. And they were like, oh yeah, she used to be a regular. She stopped turning up. Don't know why. And so that's how they found the woman. And it's like, wow, like nobody even knew. Like, he would have gotten away with it if there wasn't that fire. I mean, it's just crazy. And they couldn't convict him of all the murders, even though the saw that he used to cut them up had bits of human flesh on it. Like, that wasn't enough evidence. So he didn't get that long in jail. I think it was also only like 7 or 8 years. And then, he's out walking around. So lots of weird stuff in Hamburg. And it was eye-opening, and also really like, weird. But I guess that's like any place that has a long history. Yeah. Oh, but there was also this part about this flood that happened in Hamburg. Didn't even know about that. Heaps of people died. And it was sad, because the police, they tried their best, to help people, but they just weren't prepared for it, And so like they knew that there were people that needed help, and then they felt really helpless because they couldn't help them. So there was like a lot of different things going on in the museum. Like, it wasn't just one era of history. You got taken through the whole thing, and sort of like the transition of the police from like this quite, I guess, not together group, and then to a group that is just controlled by the government, so they do whatever the government says, and then forward into a organization that is hopefully not controlled by the government, but is more there to actually serve people and to make sure the community is safe. So that, I mean, it was interesting. It was a really good museum. And today is one of the few sunny days this summer in Hamburg, and I'm going to go visit some pigs. I have already visited 2 really fluffy cats, 1 really cool dog, and obviously I went to the zoo. So it's been really awesome. And yeah, I will let you guys know my final thoughts on Hamburg. My final thoughts are that it's pretty wild out here. Yeah. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will see you guys all next time. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button and subscribe and leave a comment. Hey dog!